Hello friends, today we are talking Qiaomei. That is the Paul Ruben Qiaomei tube watercolor set. So with that said, let me welcome you back to another thrifty review. Now the unboxing for this set was previously posted to the channel in a live. I will be sure to link that, and they have already been panned. With that said, let's take a look. In normal fashion, my friends, we are going to start today's video off with a demo so that you can see the paints in use before I jump into talking about them. For this final field test, I really wanted to test the paint flow and blending ability. However, I have to admit my biggest reason for today's composition was to test myself and push outside of my normal frame of comfort. In this painting, I am tackling a goldfinch, which happens to be only the second animal I've painted on my YouTube channel since I originally started it. The first was an eagle I did as a collaboration video with Don from Made by Don months back. Now, I will be sure to link that video just in case you want to check that painting out. In addition to being the final test for the paints, it is also going to be my first painting using a Princeton Aqua Elite brush. I have to admit that it was a pretty cool experience and it worked out wonderfully. I didn't think I would find a brush I like as much as Paint Crush brushes at this point, but I have to say this one was amazing for detailing. The colors I am using in this painting are sap green, gamboge, lemon yellow, ultramarine, burnt sienna, burnt umber, and Van Dyke brown. Now the background was painted using lots of water. The wet into wet technique helps me to keep the color in the background from being too bold. Now if you're not familiar with that, you can check out this video linked in the iCard in the top right hand corner to take you to more details about that technique. Using the wet into wet allowed me to diffuse the colors in the background, leaving maybe the impression of leaves or bushes. Now the bird in the painting is definitely the focal image, so having a slightly blurred background really helps it stand out. The branch is the secondary focal image, so it will be just as detailed, but much more muted in color than that of the bright, beautiful yellow gold color that's on the goldfinch bird itself. The colors in this set are really bright and rich, and I found myself having to be careful with the color and mask tone. There were times when I had to add the colors opposite or even blue to dull it down just a bit. While doing the branch, I am also going to be using my card scraper to scratch and line texture. While doing this, the paint will seep down into those abrasions and cause darker lines, giving the appearance of bark. That is also a wonderful technique, friends, to use to do like rocks and feathers and many other things that we paint from nature. I find that using an angle brush to paint my branch works out really well, allowing me to paint the wider areas with the belly of the brush, then having the ability to move to the tip of the brush for smaller areas requiring more detail. Although most of my final detailing will be done with that Princeton Aqua Elite brush I mentioned before. I have to say that these paints really remind me of the Pretty Excellent paint set. They share a lot of similar qualities. I would have to say that the Qiaomei set is a bit more opaque overall, well, in my opinion. When it came time to add the black to my painting, I decided to mix it. Using ultramarine blue and the burnt umber of the set, I mixed the color resting slightly between like a Payne's gray and a black. I did decide against adding feather details because I felt that the slight granulation on the bird's chest left by the small amount of ultramarine mixed into the shadow color gave enough of a feather impression. Plus, This allowed me to construct this demo so that it could be a bit complex, yet easy to follow along to at the same time. For the eye, I used the same black that I did on the bird's head and for the indication of the wings. When doing this, try to leave a sliver of white to automatically put in that natural looking highlight. However, you guys know me, there will be bleed proof involved if I'm involved. So moving into the beak and the feet, I have to admit that I was a bit nervous. With this being only the second bird I've painted, I was really hoping to be able to pull off practicing what I preach, which is to draw what I see in paint. The beak came out okay, but even I have to admit that it will take a little bit more practice before I'm completely happy about the way like the feet of my bird are turning out. Yet, when it was all said and done, I do believe that they work well in the overall scheme of the composition. Now, when it came to adding the shadow under the bird and on the branch, or should I say to the painting overall, I simply used that same dark color I mixed for the bird and lightened it up by adding more water to the paint of the color mixture. You will notice that I painted layers on the branch, allowing each layer to dry completely before glazing with an additional color. Now, this differs from the way that the bird was done, which was by dropping wet paint onto wet paper for a wet into wet wash. Now, if you pay attention to the bird's feet, you will see that adding the shadow underneath helps them to stand out against the color of the branch, with them being so close in color and value. As I was painting, I felt as if the composition needed a few more elements in it. Therefore, I decided to add some grass blades into the background to frame the goldfinch. They were done with the mass tone sap green, and then the shadow mixed from sap green with a small amount of ultramarine blue to darken it. As you can tell, I used the same colors over and over throughout the painting, from the background to the focal image. As you hear me remind you in most videos, this was done to keep the color harmony throughout the painting, making sure nothing stood out too much or was left looking out of place. Always remember that if you introduce a new color into your painting, be sure to use it in several places so that it will look purposeful. Now, at this point, everything else is just me dilly and daddling and simply adjusting the values on different elements of the painting to make sure that they are separated. And I am going to eventually break into this with a little bit of bleed proof, of course, as I mentioned earlier, to add in some highlights. Now, the setting for this is kind of thick, like bird and thick bush maybe. So there's not going to be too many highlights coming in, but there will be a few. And then I did decide to sprinkle and splatter or controlled splatters, not just anywhere, but kind of having them go up the side of the foliage to look like maybe flyaways, and just to add a little bit more thickness or body to the actual overall painting. Now, here I'm hemming and hawing, as Lindsay says. I'm just, really just adjusting values and making sure that everything looks like it's supposed to fit. And that's going to kind of wrap up the demo, guys. I'll jump in with the bleed proof, and then I'll see you guys on the other side of this demo so that we can talk about the actual paint set. So here we are, friends. Let's go ahead and wrap everything up. I'm going to try to move through this quickly but efficiently and give you all the information that I can. We've already done the unboxing, of course. The only thing I want to call to your attention from that is the fact that there are printed swatches on the back of the box. They do have the index number, the color name, as well as the pigment codes and light fast rating printed on the actual box, which is pretty decent. And I also want to call to your attention that this is 24 12 milliliter tubes. So these are some rather large tubes of paint in comparison to what you get in some other quality paints or some other brands, should I say. There is a large variety of colors included in here, and they were panned and they all dried down really well. I did not experience any issues with consistency. There may have been one or two that had just a bit of slight binder separation, which was very easy to rectify. And yes, no issues with that. As far as the re-wet ability, just the slightest touch of a wet brush will reactivate the paints. I didn't find any issue there. As a matter of fact, they get really juicy really quickly. I just spray them down one good time, about maybe 30 seconds to a minute before I would start using them, and there was absolutely no problem. Now, I swatched the paints out on 100% cotton watercolor paper, simply because I just wanted to give them, you know, a really best shot at shining, and did my normal 3-layer swatching effect, but sort of with this mermaid theme going on. Wanted something cutesy, and I did, of course, label each one. Each paint does have its pigment number included, as I mentioned before. Now, what I did notice about this particular set is that of the 24 colors, many of them are dual to triple pigment colors, which upon initial inspection, I kind of thought to myself that may present a bit of a problem. But in all honesty, it really didn't. I found that the colors mixed, and here's that little sheet on the back here. I found that the colors mixed really cleanly, gave me some really beautiful secondary colors that were not muddy or chalky or anything of that nature. From the door, from the swatching and the color mixing, the opacity testing, they immediately reminded me of the Pretty Excellent watercolors, which we know is made in the same factory with Paul Ruben's. Well, we assume, but it's pretty much been confirmed and on so many different levels. And that's gonna actually come into play as we talk a little bit more about the Qiaomei set. Now, they reacted really well to salt, as most watercolors normally do, and I was able to mix some really beautiful neutral gray into black tones from the different colors. There is a split primary set in here, and it is going to differ again a bit from Pretty Excellent in that aspect, but we'll talk about that in just a little bit. So I always do a lift test with you guys, which I'm going to do today, but I did want to once again just kind of let you look at the different color range and how beautiful and bright and pigmented the colors actually are. Now, that indigo actually reminds me a lot of Payne's Gray, which ironically enough, we'll talk about that in a moment as well. 3 pigment color, but still very clean, very beautiful. Let's see here. Let me just get my little thing to operate right so you can see this last sheet here. Really nice range of browns. More browns in this set than you normally find in a watercolor set, but for someone like me who loves to do earth tone type paintings a lot, that really works well, especially from, like, I would say, a landscape artist, artist who use and paints animals on a regular basis. I think it would be really cool. So we're going to do that lift test in just a second. I want to get some of this stuff cleared off. So again, that's what the paints look like panned, and you're going to immediately start looking at some artwork that I've done with the paints. Like I said, we're going to move through this pretty quickly. I didn't find any issues with the paints And again, they compared so much to Pretty Excellent to me that it was actually really ridiculous. Now, this was the first little experiment that I did with the paints after swatching and doing the color mixing. Again, I think that the opacity for these is a little bit more, a little bit thicker, a little bit richer. You have a little bit more opacity. That's what I'm trying to say. With the Qiaomei set than you do with the Pretty Excellent set. So I was able to allow the layers to dry and then layer additional layers on top without disturbing the layer underneath. They build in opacity and saturation as I did that. Now, they're not so opaque as, like, say, a gouache where you would cover the layer underneath. They still have an air transparency to them, allowing the layers underneath to kind of show through. So it builds color, it builds that depth into the painting. So I really love that the paints do that. I love that they blend so well, especially in a wet environment. The pigmentation holds. There's not a huge shift from wet to dry, which I found really pleasing. I love the granulation in the ultramarine blue, the cobalt blue, some of the earth tones. It's not super heavy, but it's not super subtle. It seems to be just enough to give the texture in certain things like rocks or trees or branches that you may want without kind of overwhelming the picture, which I found really, really cool. Let's see here. Of course, in the painting that we did together today, which was the second animal that I've attempted, I actually like the way that it came out. I wish that the grass blades wasn't as uniform or didn't seem as second thought as it is. But for what it's worth, overall, I think the composition came out really well. I love the texture that the credit card scraper or the card scraper added into the branch in order for you to see that kind of wooden texture. I was really wondering when I set out to do this how that was going to look, or how I was going to pull that off. So that worked really well. Overall, I really love the richness, the brightness, and the vibrancies of the paint. As you can see from yourself, for yourself, there is not too much of a difference being dry than it was in its wet form when we painted it on screen together today. So really like the paints. So when it came down to comparing them to Pretty Excellent, simply because, again, I feel like when I was using the paints, I was using just a tad bit more opaque version of the Pretty Excellent. Now, the quote Qiaomei paints are 24 tubes, 12 milliliters. The Pretty Excellent tube set is going to be 36 tubes of 5 milliliters. So I guess pound for pound, you may be getting almost the same amount of paint. It seems to me like there would be more paint in the 12 milliliter 24 tube set, and you are going to get a slightly different color selection. So let's look at this. I'll just flip this over and we'll just take a look, or we can just take a look here. So right off the bat, with the Pretty Excellent set, you're going to see that your white is 150, and here in the Qiaomei set, you're going to get Chinese white 150. Then you move to lemon yellow being 346. Here your lemon yellow hue is 346. And you will find that most of the colors that match between the set also match in index number as well as pigment numbers, because you do get the pigment numbers with the tube set. I actually like these paints so much that they're included into my main studio palette alongside Daniel Smith and Core. So I think that these are a really clean, straightforward, beautiful bridge paint in between student grade and professional that works so well with both grades of paint. And I also feel that the Qiaomei set is exactly the same, with a little, just a slight bit more opacity, maybe a slight bit more granulation to certain colors than in the Pretty Excellent set. A few different color choices, because there are going to be some colors that are in the Pretty Excellent set that are not in the Qiaomei set, and then there'll be colors that are in the Qiaomei set that are not in the Pretty Excellent set. But either way, you would have to make a decision based on what colors work better for you and what colors work better with your painting style. And you'll also have to make a decision based on price versus the amount of paint that you get. Because currently you can get the 36 set of Mei Liang Pretty Excellent watercolor tubes, which is the 36 5ml tubes for $35.99. And that's on Amazon. You can get the 36 half pans, and this is the set, the original set, that's in the, where the half pans are in the molded tray, not in the actual individual half pans. And this set is always on sale. It's currently running $16.79, and the set that actually has the individual half pans with the brushes included is $26.99. So again, you're pretty much getting the same quality of paint. You're just gonna have to make a decision about what works best for your pocket, what may be more aesthetically pleasing to you to have as a part of your collection, whatever criteria you base purchasing your paint on. In the Qiaomei set, you're gonna get 24 12ml tubes. Now this set I could not find on Amazon. I was only able to find it on Lightwish, which happens to be the distributor of most of Paul Ruben's products in the North American continent, if I'm not mistaken. Continent on the North American continent, if I'm not mistaken. You can find this set on their site for $35.99, which happens to be the same exact price as the 36 5ml tube set for the Pretty Excellent. So, you know, what works best for you, you will have to make that decision on. Now, if you don't want to have to worry about tubes, if you're not someone who paints directly from the tube, or you don't want to have to worry about drying your tubes down in order to paint from half pans, then you may want to think about just going with the Pretty Excellent 36 half pan set, which again, you can normally get between $16 and $20 on most occasions if you get the one with the molded tray. If you get one with the half pans, I think it's normally around $20, $22. And you typically find it in combination with like a brush set or paper or something like that. So you guys, hopefully I've presented enough information to you about the Qiaomei set. There are so many other reviews out there on this particular set of paints. I just wanted to put my little 2 cents in based on my little painting experience in corner of the world, and to point out what I think some other artists may not have pointed out about the set when comparison, is that what it really comes down to, it comes down more about price than quality. Because I honestly think that the quality across the sets is so similar that whichever set you get, you won't be losing, you know. But I would still, if someone walked up to me and asked me, hey, what's a great set that you would recommend to me that's really great quality and super economical, I would still either go with recommending the Pretty Excellent. And for the sake of this video, I'm just going to talk about what we have in front of us. So I would still go with the Pretty Excellent over any of this, simply because you're going to get it super economically, and the paint quality to me is absolutely superb for the amount of money that you spend. But I do not think that for the price of 24 12ml tubes, it is a bad investment at $35.99 to add the Qiaomei set to your collection if it's something that you think would fit into the way that you paint. So if you need it, go get it. If you have paints and they work for you, use what you have, guys. With that, I hope you guys heard, saw, or picked up on something in this little quick kind of surface review that you found helpful or will help you make a decision about what you want to do, if you decide to add any of this to your arsenal. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. Share the video because that is caring and maybe someone else will love to hear the information. Hit up the comment section and let me know how you feel. Was this video too long, too overwhelming? Did you get the information you feel you need about the Qiaomei set in order to make a proper decision for yourself? I would really like to know how you feel. Have you used the paints? If you've used them, what do you think of them? Let me know. I want to know. Okay? Check the video description for all of the relevant links. Remember that if you're new or returning and you haven't subscribed, hit that subscription button and that notification bell. The website is up and going. You can check the video description for that link. You can check the video description for Etsy, Patreon, the Facebook page, the Facebook group, which I want to make a sale or something about that really quick. Guys, all artists are welcome there. I'll never turn or close the door in the Facebook group to any artist, regardless of what your level or what your medium is. However, when you try to join the group, there are rules that you have to agree to, and then there's a question that you have to answer, reaffirming that you read the rules and you agreed to it. And we do that to protect the artists in the community. If you skip past that, I am sorry to say that I do decline your entry into the group with a message letting you know that it was declined because you did not agree to abide by the rules to protect everybody in the group. Please resubmit. For most people, they don't even read it. They just kind of skip over it and hit join. But when you join the group, just kind of agree to the rules of the group so that, everybody will be protected and you'll get right on in. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there because I don't want anybody to ever think I'm just denying entry into the group. I would never do that to you. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page about the respect that needs to be had in the group so that no one will feel, disrespected or violated ever in any shape, form, or fashion. So there you have that. Thank you so much, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. And remember, as I tell you at the end of every single one, just keep creating.